We're in a 3-part series called The Art of Goal Making. I'm sharing some tips and techniques that helped me go from reading 13 books in 2018 to nearly doubling it to 25 books in 2019. Now, this is part 3 of our series. In case you missed parts 1 or 2, we've included links to those in our session outline. So here are our final 2 techniques to making goals that you will actually accomplish. First one, you need to track or measure your progress. You see, too many times we set a goal or objective in January and we don't frequently revisit it. And all of a sudden, 6 months go by. It's July. We check back in on that goal and we realize we are so far off track. In fact, we probably don't have enough time to get back on track and accomplish that goal. You see, when we measure and track our goals frequently, there are 2 things that happen. First off, we can make quick course corrections. Do you remember that illustration back in geometry class? They showed us 2 lines on a plane that were 1 degree apart. But then as those lines go over time, the distance gets greater between them, even though they stayed 1 degree apart. Same thing happens when it comes to our goals. If we get off by 1 degree in January, and that continues on until July, we will have a lot of distance that we have to make up. So for me, to help out with this, I do something that David Allen in his book, Getting Things Done, calls the weekly review. Every single week, typically it's on Sunday nights, I review all of my goals and objectives. And I write down my progress, or sometimes the lack thereof. And it really helps me out in those areas where I'm a little bit behind, because then for the next week, I can make plans to get back on track. Now, the second that happens when we frequently track and measure our goals is it increases our motivation. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, but if I'm tracking my goals and I'm behind in all my goals, isn't that more demotivating? And you're right, that would be probably demotivating. But you know what's more demotivating than not accomplishing your goals or losing at them is not knowing if you're winning or losing. Author Daniel Pink says, the single greatest motivator is making progress in one's work. The days that people make progress are the days they feel most motivated and engaged. You see, it's like a snowball effect. If you can track your progress and you just start making progress in 1 or 2 areas, you're kind of winning in those areas. You know what it'll do? It will begin to increase your productivity, and more importantly, it will increase your motivation, and you'll actually start accomplishing more of those goals simply because you started tracking them. So here's how it works out for me. I've got a goal this year. I want to read 24 books, okay? But the problem is I can't track effectively at the end of each month, because it'd be really easy to say, well, 24 books, you need to read 2 books each month, and you can accomplish that. Here's the problem. Let's say I only read 1 book in a month. That means the next month I have to read 3 books. That's going to be really, really hard to do. I need to be able to track it more frequently. So here's what I do. Now, I'm going to warn you, I'm going to get a little bit in the weeds here. We're going to get very detailed, but I want to show you kind of what it takes to be able to accomplish our goals. Okay. So for me, what I do is that I do my reading in percentages. So 1 book equals 100%. So if that book had 100 pages and I read 10 pages in the book, that would be 10%, okay? So if I have to read 24 books, that means I have to read 2,400%, if you will. Well, now I can start breaking that down. 2,400 divided by 52, that's a little under 47%. Okay, so I need to read 47% each week, but I can break it down even further. That means that I have to read a little under 8% each day. And since I've been doing this for quite a while, I know that means that I need to read about 5 to 6 hours a week to be able to accomplish my goal. Now, again, I know that's in the weeds. I know that's very detailed, but if you want to accomplish something great, you have to be willing to do the work. And for me, that one thing, tracking my progress, is probably the single greatest thing that helped me nearly double my reading from 2018 to 2019. Okay, our final technique. You need accountability. Craig Rochelle says that accountability closes the gap between intentions and actions. You see, self-discipline, it's overrated. We were not made naturally for self-discipline. Most of us struggle with being self-disciplined. So what we need to do is that we need to do what I like to call, we have to create accountability mechanisms that kind of keep us on track, that kind of remind us to check in. You know what these accountability mechanisms are? They're a lot like rumble strips. You know what rumble strips are? They're the bumps on the side of the interstate that when we fall asleep, they make noise and they restore us. That's what we need for our goals. We need things or people in our life that are going to make noise when we get off track so that we can stay in the right lane and accomplish our goals. The two most effective accountability mechanisms that I've seen is one, I've already mentioned it, the weekly review. Every week reviewing your goals. And then secondly, sharing your goals publicly with someone else. In one California study, they found out that people who recorded their goals, meaning they measured and tracked them, and then sent weekly progress reports to someone else, those people, they were able to achieve 43% more of their goals and objectives than people who merely thought about it. 43% more productivity simply because they shared their goals frequently with somebody else. All right, so let me leave you with our game plan today. Now, over the last 3 weeks, I've shared with you the 8 key priorities that we should have in our life. They're spiritual, spouse if you're married, self, family, friends, profession, finances, and hobbies. So here's what I want you to do in those 8 areas. I want you to create one goal or objective for each one of those priorities. So for me, under the self category, I would say I want to read 24 books, okay? Then what you need to do is you need to create one task or activity that's going to help you accomplish that goal. So again, if I want to read 24 books, then I know that I need to read 47% a week, which equals about 5 to 6 hours a week. So that's my one task or activity. Then you got to put an accountability mechanism in place. Who or what is going to hold you accountable? For me, it's the weekly review. Each week, checking back on that goal and seeing how much I've read, and then making changes if I need to so I can stay on track. And then finally, share your goals with someone else. Now, again, I know that this is a lot, but I can tell you this. If you put these techniques into practice that we've talked about over the last 3 weeks, I can almost guarantee you that you will increase your productivity to accomplish those goals that you've always wanted to accomplish. Let me leave you with our tweetable lesson. Ideas are easy, but execution is everything.